I never believed in demons. Ghosts, sure, maybe, stories told in the dark, shadows that looked like people if you squinted hard enough. But demons? Possession? That was something for movies. At least, that's what I thought, until I moved into that house in Gary, Indiana. The first time I pulled up to the place, it didn't look unusual. A small house, old but nothing alarming. The paint was chipped, the lawn uneven, but it had a porch and enough space for me and my 3 kids. We were just looking for a fresh start. But from the very first week, something felt wrong. It started small. Mornings where the air was ice cold, even though the heater rattled and hissed. Nights where I'd swear I heard whispering just beyond the bedroom door, a sound too low to be one of the kids. I told myself it was the stress of moving. But the flies were impossible to explain. Black flies swarmed the porch, dozens, sometimes hundreds, smacking against the windows, crawling over the screen door. No matter how many I killed, they came back. And it wasn't summer. It was November. My mother said it was a bad sign. I laughed, but not for long. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps in the basement. My stomach tightened. I was alone, the kids were asleep. I grabbed a flashlight and went down. The smell hit me first, damp earth, mold, and something rotten. The basement was empty, except for a faint patch of wet ground in the corner, like something had seeped up from underneath. I turned to go back upstairs, but in the beam of my flashlight, a shadow crossed the wall. And I swear to you, there was nothing in that room to cast it. After that, things escalated fast. My youngest started waking up screaming. He'd claw at his own skin, eyes rolling back like he wasn't himself. He whispered in voices that weren't his, low and guttural. Once, I walked into the living room and found him standing on top of the dresser, his body rigid, arms hanging at his sides. Before he dropped to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. Doctors said it was stress. Psychologists said trauma. But I knew better. I saw the way the lights flickered when he entered the room. I saw the scratches appear on his arms out of nowhere. And I saw the grin that spread across his face, one that wasn't my son's grin at all. The other 2 kids weren't spared. My daughter swore a tall shadow stood in her room at night, watching. My oldest boy woke up with bruises that looked like fingerprints around his neck. And always, the sound of something moving in the basement, pacing, waiting. I called the church. A priest came. He sprinkled holy water, muttered prayers. My youngest screamed so loud the neighbors heard, his body convulsing like the water burned. The priest stopped, pale and sweating, and told me to seek help from higher up. He didn't want to come back. By then, I was desperate. The kids weren't just suffering, they were changing. My little one spoke in a voice I didn't recognize, telling me things no child should know. He described people who had died in the neighborhood, details he couldn't possibly have heard. He told me the house wanted us, that it had chosen us. I called everyone, social workers, police, doctors. Nobody believed me. Until one night, when 2 officers came for a welfare check. They went into the basement, laughing at me for being scared. A few minutes later, they stumbled out, faces white, refusing to talk about what they saw. One of them quit the force not long after. Reporters got wind of it. Paranormal investigators, too. One even bought the house years later and filmed a documentary. But they didn't see what I saw, not really. They didn't feel the walls breathe around you at night. They didn't hear the voices that slipped into your dreams, telling you things you wish you could forget. I left that house. I took my kids and ran. People said I was crazy, that I made it all up. But when I close my eyes at night, I still hear those footsteps in the basement. I still smell the rot rising from the floorboards. And sometimes, when the lights flicker in my new home, I wonder, did we escape? Or did something follow us?
I used to think home was the safest place in the world. Walls to protect you, a roof to keep you warm, doors that locked out whatever darkness lingered beyond the street. That illusion died the day we moved into the house on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It looked ordinary enough. Modest. Comfortable. A place to raise a family. And for the first few months, it was just that. But then the house began to breathe. And once it noticed us, it never stopped. The first signs were subtle. A cold draft in the hallway, even when every window was sealed tight. A faint stench, sulfur, like rotten eggs, hanging in the air, impossible to trace. My husband and I laughed it off, joked about the old pipes or the house settling. But laughter turned to silence the night the walls began to groan. It was late, the kids asleep, when I woke to the sound of scratching. Not mice. Not rats. It was deeper, heavier, like claws raking across plaster. I shook my husband awake. He listened, frowning. Then the sound stopped. We told ourselves it was nothing. But the next morning, deep gouges marked the wall behind our bed. After that, it grew bolder. Lights flickered when no storm raged outside. The television switched on in the middle of the night, blasting static. Tools vanished from the basement only to reappear days later, piled neatly in the center of the living room. We tried to ignore it, but ignoring it didn't make it stop. It made it angry. One afternoon, I was folding laundry when a shadow crossed the hallway. I thought it was one of the girls, but when I called out, nobody answered. The room grew cold, so cold my breath turned white. Then the smell hit, sulfur, sharp and choking. The laundry basket shook, tipped, and every piece of clothing flew across the room as though thrown by invisible hands. I screamed. My husband came running, but by then it was gone. The children weren't spared. They woke with bruises, scratches, and once, God help me, bite marks on their arms. Our oldest said she saw a black thing with eyes like coals standing at the foot of her bed. Our youngest cried about voices whispering in her ear at night, telling her to hurt herself. We prayed. We begged. We lit candles and sprinkled holy water. But the more we fought, the stronger it seemed to get. It didn't just want to scare us, it wanted to break us. Then came the attacks. My husband was the first. He was pinned to the bed one night, pressed down by a force so heavy he could barely breathe. He clawed at the sheets, eyes wide, lips blue, until suddenly it released him. He rolled to the floor, gasping, sobbing. He said he felt hands, icy, cruel, wrapped around his throat. And then, it turned on me. It's hard to talk about. Harder still to admit. But something touched me in ways no human should. It held me down, tore at my clothes. The shame, the violation, it left me shaking, unable to tell anyone at first. But when I finally confessed, my husband just nodded. Because he already knew. It had tried the same with him. This wasn't just a haunting. It was an infestation. Something inhuman lived in our home, and it wanted us broken, body and soul. We sought help. Priests came, prayed, blessed every corner of the house. But the entity mocked them. During one blessing, the crucifix on the wall trembled and spun upside down. The candles snuffed out one by one. The priest left pale and shaken, promising to return with reinforcements. Some never did. We even called Ed and Lorraine Warren, the demonologists you might have heard of. They believed us. They said the presence was demonic. That it fed on our fear, our suffering. They tried exorcisms. The air grew thick, objects hurled across rooms, and unholy shrieks rattled the walls. For a moment, I thought it was over. For a moment, the silence felt real. But it always came back. Neighbors began whispering. The press came knocking. People said we were liars, attention seekers. But tell me, why would anyone invent the bruises on my children's skin? Why would we choose to live in terror, to sleep with lights on, to wake each morning unsure if we'd survive the night? Years passed. The torment didn't end overnight, but it weakened. Maybe because we stopped feeding it fear. Maybe because the Warrens were right, the prayers, the blessings, they chipped away at its power. Or maybe it just got bored. Eventually, we moved away. We never looked back. But here's the truth I carry with me: houses are supposed to protect you. Ours betrayed us. It became a weapon, a stage for something cruel to act out its hunger. And though I've left that house behind, some nights, in the silence, I still hear it. The scratching in the walls. The whisper at my ear. The promise that it's not finished with me.